Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The rising 12-0 prospect Aslanbek Makhmudov is set to face Erkan Teper on the 23rd of September in Quebec City. So this is headlining a card that's run by Eye of the Tiger Management, which promotes Makhmudov. So I don't mind this. This is actually not a bad fight for Aslanbek Makhmudov. It's better than the Pavel Saus and Dylan Carmens of the world, which has been the recent opposition for Makhmudov. And potentially it's his best opponent to date. Although I think that Johnny Rice win, which was a couple of years ago now, has actually aged quite well. Although I think Rice fought a little bit different that night than Rice fought against Michael Polite Coffey. He certainly had a bit more confidence to let his hands go in that fight. But Makhmudov, coming into this fight, he's building some momentum, with fans. There's a bit of a groundswell of buzz about who this guy is. His fearsome sort of punching, the right hand, the right uppercut. And in his opponent, in Erkan Teper, he's fought at a certain level. He's got some wins, although at this point in his career, he really is nothing more than a gatekeeper. 39 years old, but he does own some decent wins against the likes of Evgenius Lazaridis. He also had a win against David Price. That was a pretty brutal stoppage. Johan Dorper. Except there is the stink of performance-enhancing drugs around Teper's career, and he hasn't really looked anything like he did when he was clearly on them after he was off them. So I'm sure that there is some drug testing in place for this fight, but since a loss to Robert Helenius a couple of years ago, which was a good fight until Teper was brutally stopped, and here is a small clip of that stoppage. That left hand absolutely wrecks Teper, sends him into the shadow realm. Teper really hasn't been up to much in terms of action inside of the ring. So you've had a couple of tune-ups against journeymen, one in 2019, one in 2020, nothing to really write home about. The one in 2020 was a 4-rounder. And now you have, coming off the back of 1 year out of the ring, he's going to be stepping in against Makhmudov. So he certainly does have his work cut out for him with the activity, and obviously he's an aging fighter now, but he did have a decent amateur career. His pro career has been okay. Obviously a couple of decent wins, but the spectre of PEDs. But he does have some skill. He does have some boxing acumen, and he's going to need to employ all of that to try to keep Aslanbek Makhmudov at bay and off him. Because what Makhmudov is going to try to do is come forward and take his head off. Right hand, right uppercut. He will be looking for him and to send him, like Robert Helenius did, into the shadow realm. So it really is all there for Erkan Teper, and clearly he's probably being well paid for this. Makhmudov's promoters, Eye of the Tiger Management, have had real issues trying to get quality opposition for Makhmudov. But compared to some of the recent opposition for Makhmudov, I consider that this is a step up and potentially the best name on Makhmudov's resume to date. Although perhaps with that Johnny Rice win, you could argue that Rice and Teper, if they fought now, Rice probably beats him. But in terms of Makhmudov's trainer, he's also looking forward to this fight, saying, in Teper, we see the best opponent of Aslanbek so far. As a former member of the German national team, Teper represents a good technical boxer, and he has also excellent defensive skills. He is a very interesting challenge for our team. And also the promoter of Aslanbek Makhmudov, Camille Estefan, says, we're proud to have found a quality opponent like Erkan Teper to face Makhmudov on September 23 at the Videotron Centre. He represents a danger for Arslanbek since he has faced very big names in his career. Teper has already caused surprises by defeating undefeated boxers, in addition to beating Price and Dorper. It will be a good test for Aslanbek and quite a show for boxing fans. Let's keep it in perspective. It's at a certain level. I don't really think that Teper represents a serious threat to Makhmudov, but I do think it's a cut above recent opponents like Pavel Sauer and Dylan Carmen, even the faded Samuel Peter, who was in his 40s when he fought Makhmudov. Sure, we know Samuel Peter still had power, but he was, at least 10 years past his prime. Julian Fernandez was a former opponent as well. And then you're going back to Jonathan Rice. And that was mid-2019. So for me, at least, this represents his best opponent, at least since Rice. And Rice gave him the most rounds of his career, because no one's really been able to sort of navigate a fight with Makhmudov and get out of the second or third round. I mean, all these recent wins, Sauer, Carmen, Samuel Peter, Julian Fernandez, they've been either in the first round, or Fernandez managed the last 3 rounds using a bit of movement. Rice was able to take him 7 rounds. So I'm hoping or expecting that we're going to see Teper be able to do at least something better than some of the recent names. Maybe he won't go as far as Jonathan Rice in terms of lasting 7 rounds, but you'd hope that Makhmudov can get some rounds in here, because he needs some, in-ring experience. He needs something a little bit tricky and challenging, something to push him. Otherwise, when he does climb to the higher levels in the heavyweight division, he's going to be found wanting, because he hasn't got some of the requisite in-ring experience to fall back on, some of the situations that might be a bit tricky that he actually has to draw on his experience to get through. So I'm hoping Teper, who is awkward, who can box well, who is a decent technician and can be defensively responsible, can actually go some rounds here. I still think ultimately that Teper is going to get sparked out, that this is a knockout that is, you can almost take it to the bank. But I do think it's going to go a few more rounds than some of his recent fights, and he will be all the better for that. And I'm pleased as well that they were able to get him out so soon after his most recent fight, which was in July the 23rd, and he's going to be in the ring September the 23rd. After what has felt like a bit of an age over the past sort of 18 months. He's been very inactive for a prospect at least. It's good to see that they're starting to kick things back into gear for him, because he was starting to build some momentum, and some of that momentum's just slowed down a little bit because he hasn't been able to get some fights, get in the ring, get some action. There's been a few times where it was nearly happening earlier in 2021, even in 2020, talk of fights, but they never materialized. So good to see him back so soon after the last fight, and I do think he is going to win. And it's these sorts of fights that it's going to help build his profile even more, because Teper is known to some extent to boxing fans, maybe not more broadly to casual fans, but he's going to keep going in against sort of opponents like Teper and slightly above, where he is going to manhandle them. He is going to dominate and ultimately get some good stoppages, and that will be all the better for his profile. So I like this fight because I think it's better than recent opponents, and he needed to be stepping up, so it is a step up from recent opposition, and he is going to get the win. What do you make of this fight? How's Makhmudov going to win? Because I don't think there's any sort of route to victory here for a long in the tooth Teper who's been out of the ring for a year. Honestly, I do not. I think he is certainly less of a fighter than he was when he was on the juice. Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.